Humanity had always known that the day would come when they would make first contact with an alien species. This inevitable event was a staple of science fiction and a topic of countless discussions among scientists, philosophers, and the general public. Yet, when that day arrived, it was nothing like what anyone had imagined. The day began like any other, until global communications were hijacked by an alien transmission. The image of Riian Grand Commander Cior appeared on every monitor, every screen, and every device capable of displaying a message. He was a terrifying sight, a being with gray, leathery skin, prominent horns, and eyes that glowed a menacing red. His appearance alone would have been enough to instill fear, but it was his message that truly horrified humanity. Commander Cior announced that Earth was to be annexed as part of the Riian Galactic Empire. There was no negotiation, no preamble, just a stark declaration of conquest. The Riian Empire, he proclaimed, had expanded across the galaxy, assimilating countless civilizations. Earth was next. According to Cior, humanity had only two options: surrender or face annihilation. Generations of science fiction authors had written about such scenarios, exploring the potential ramifications of first contact with an alien race. However, deep down, most people believed it would be a more benign or at least negotiable encounter. The reality was far more brutal. The Riians were not just another advanced civilization, they were conquerors with technology far beyond anything humanity could comprehend. Their ability to journey between the stars indicated a level of advancement that dwarfed human achievements. What made the situation even more daunting was the Riians' history. They had encountered and subjugated numerous other races, integrating them into their empire with a seemingly routine efficiency. There was no need for them to adopt such a belligerent attitude towards Earth, yet that was exactly what they did. Commander Cior spoke with unwavering authority about the invasion fleet already en route to the solar system. He coldly stated that the fleet would arrive at Earth in just 5 days, giving humanity a minimal window to prepare for their conquering arrival. In the face of this existential threat, global leaders convened urgently. All eyes turned to President Belmont, the President of the United States, as he led the country with the planet's most powerful military force. In a solemn address, Belmont captured the dire reality of their situation. "We have no choice," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. "We cannot match their technology. Our weapons, our defenses are all but useless against their advanced capabilities." Furthermore, Commander Cior has made it clear that the Riian Empire is vast, having already conquered other worlds across the galaxy. If we resist, it will only lead to our total destruction. Belmont's words echoed a grim acceptance. The advanced technology and the sheer scale of the Riian Empire made any notion of resistance seem futile. The thought of surrender was abhorrent, but the alternative, total annihilation, was even more so. Humanity was caught in a no-win situation, forced to reckon with an unstoppable force that threatened to end their civilization as they knew it. The coming days would test the very essence of human resilience and adaptability in ways they had never imagined. Admiral Daniel Ross, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, nodded in agreement and said, "It would be wise to yield to their demands, at least until we gather more intelligence on our enemy. Currently, all we know about them is what we've seen on the video screens." Marin McCarthy, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, laughed and added, "From what we can tell, that's all they know about us as well. According to SciFi, Earth just happens to be within the territory they've decided to annex." Admiral Ross turned to the seasoned politician and asked, "Do you see any advantage in this?" "Possibly," she replied. "They likely know nothing about our military capabilities or the potential power of a unified planet against them." Admiral Ross grunted in agreement. "You're right. The problem is that the aliens will always control the high ground of space. With only a week before they arrive, we don't have enough time to develop or deploy the technology needed to change that. I believe the President is right, we need to comply with their demands initially. Humans have always been known for their ability to resist in various ways. I suggest we spend this week stockpiling supplies, weapons, and personnel for the inevitable underground resistance movement." President Belmont shook his head in frustration. "In the meantime, we have to start appeasing these obnoxious and ugly aliens. If we had to be conquered, why couldn't it be by some better-looking aliens instead of these devilish ones?" A week later, the Riian fleet arrived near Earth. Most of the fleet stayed back at a safe distance while their scanners assessed the capacities of this new world. Commander Cior and his people knew little about the natives, except that they were called humans. Cior had studied their images on the communication monitors and observed their smooth skin and soft appearance. When they spoke, he noticed their flattened teeth, in stark contrast to the sharp fangs of the Riians. He grinned maliciously, thinking they would be easy targets and possibly even tasty meals. After all, the Riian expansion across the galaxy was driven by their insatiable quest for food. But for now, he needed to focus on subduing the planet. So far, the humans had complied with all of the Riians' demands, seemingly unwilling to resist. This disappointed the Riians, who relished a good fight. Cypher, the commander of the Riian fleet, might initiate a conflict regardless of its justification, knowing his crew would savor the physical combat. He turned to his second-in-command, Subcommander GX, and asked, "Where have they chosen for us to land?" On the main screen of the bridge of C4's flagship, the Intimidator, the Grand Commander observed a large, rectangular expanse of green nestled within a forest of tall buildings. This green space was located on a small, oblong-shaped island, itself part of a larger, sprawling urban area. "These natives are prodigious builders," GCK observed. "Their military would be substantial as well. However, Sub-Commander, they do not maintain a space fleet," Cypher pointed out. "Because of that, it will make for an easy conquest." C4 and GX examined the long-range image of the landing area. It was a park with a large lake at one end. The camera zoomed in further, giving the Riians a better view of the humans. They were bipedal, like the Riians, but of a slimmer build. They moved with a fluidity that indicated agility, though they were not as robust as the Riians. Staging warrior games between his people and the humans would be entertaining and popular throughout the Empire. From the scanners, Cypher already knew the atmosphere was suitable for his species, making this world viable for colonization once the native population was subdued. Cypher might finally get the war he was itching for. So far, Riian expansion had progressed with ease, mainly due to their advanced space technology. Most civilizations they encountered had not mastered star travel, though many had developed weapons of war, including nuclear ones. Detectors picked up high concentrations of residual radiation in the atmosphere, indicating that humans had developed weapons of mass destruction. This could be problematic but not insurmountable. If the humans used nuclear devices against the invaders, they would destroy more land than they protected, leading to diminishing returns. Cypher was confident that he would have his planet and that, in the long run, there was nothing humans could do to stop him. Until now, Cypher had only been in contact with Earth's leaders. He made their arrival more generally known by broadcasting a system-wide message that appeared on all active video screens across the planet. "Attention, Earthlings. We are the Rulone and we demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. We have been in contact with your leaders, and they have agreed to our conditions. Therefore, resistance is futile. Your planet is now under Rulone control." C4 decided to wait before landing, letting panic spread across the planet. He expected resistance, there always was some. However, he didn't want the governments he'd negotiated with to be overthrown, as that would complicate things. He hoped for a quick capitulation from the populace, followed by Rulone suppression measures. The humans wouldn't like them, but by then it would be too late. "It is time," said Garx. Estimated time to landing, 30 local minutes. President Belmont, with an entourage of world leaders, stood off to one side of the vast grassy field of Central Park in New York City. 35 people were in attendance, with most world leaders sequestered in bunkers around the world. If the aliens opened fire, only a limited number of leaders would be lost, but that would only be the beginning of the end for the human race. "I have a bad feeling about this," said Speaker of the House Linda Garcia. "Maybe this wasn't such a good idea." "You mean leaving ourselves exposed like this?" the president asked nervously. Belmont had never served in the military, and even if he had, it was doubtful he would have experienced real combat. Because of that, he didn't know whether or not he was a brave man. He thought he was, but one never knew until the chips were down. Down below and now high above in the blue October sky, he noticed the blazing landing jets of the alien warship as it descended toward the surface. His heart pounded in his throat, and he felt slightly dizzy. "God, please don't let me faint," he prayed softly under his breath. Grand Commander Cior watched as the surface grew closer. He was impressed by the gigantic size of the buildings the Intimidator was dropping between on ricks. They competed for the title of the tallest structures on the planet, and there were hundreds of them. As the ship dropped to tree level, the scale of the trees struck him as strange and intimidating, making him feel an unusual sense of nervousness. He wasn't sure what to make of this unfamiliar sensation. Eventually, the ship settled on the ground, and Cior and his command delegation moved to the side exit hatch. The universal translators had already absorbed the native languages, of which there were hundreds, but had focused on the dominant English for this encounter. He was ready, his people were ready. It was time to claim a new world for the Empire. "What the is this?" Linda Garcia asked incredulously. "Is it a shuttle?" President Belmont had no answer. Instead, he led the small entourage toward the now open door of the starship, about to begin the most important conversation in the history of mankind. Grand Commander Cior led his team out the doorway and down the ramp, stepping into a forest of green that came up to mid-thigh, even higher in some places. It seemed odd that the humans had not prepared the landing area better, leaving it covered in unmanicured overgrowth. As they moved forward, they saw the humans approaching. Cior and his second-in-command, Gak, stared open-mouthed, slowly tilting their heads back as the natives came closer. "Silence. We must not show weakness," Cior commanded, cutting off Gak, who had called out in panic. "But sir," Gak started to protest. "I know," Cior gasped, stunned by what he was witnessing. "You've got to be kidding me," Linda Garcia said, her face conveying as much shock as the aliens standing before her. "They're runts." President Belmont couldn't believe his eyes. Instead of a horde of rampaging gray-skinned devils, he saw a gaggle of 8-inch-tall, gargoyle-looking beasts, almost small enough to be crushed underfoot. "These are the aliens we're supposed to be surrendering to?" Garcia asked incredulously. "That ain't going to happen." President Belmont, experiencing a different emotion, one of humor, stepped forward and bent down on one knee. Fighting the urge to extend his hand and scratch under the chin of the diminutive alien as one would scratch under a dog's muzzle, he simply greeted, "How you doing there, little fella? Welcome to Earth." He leaned in closer until his gigantic face was about a foot from the terrified-looking alien, his pleasant countenance now changing to a look of sternness. Cior, the alien leader, stepped back in fear, colliding with the others behind him. Half of them had already retreated to their tiny, 20-foot-long toy starship. He tripped and fell on his backside, allowing the president to advance, casting a menacing shadow over the diminutive creature. I am Grand Commander Cior," the tiny being said in a high-pitched voice that contrasted sharply with the deep tones of the communication speakers used in previous conversations. "I demand your immediate surrender." In response, President Belmont scooped up the toy-sized alien in his hand and stood up, lifting the tiny creature to a height that would be fatal if he dropped it. He squeezed slightly, causing Grand Commander Cior to squeal like a pig. "Oh, I'm sorry," the president said. "Does that hurt? I must not realize my own strength. Now, let's talk about this whole surrendering thing. I believe the human race would like to renegotiate the terms. What do you think of that, Grand Commander Cior?" The tiny creature rapidly nodded his head. "Of course, whatever you say. The Riian are open to new talks, perhaps something less hostile and more cooperative." "That would be fine with me," Belmont replied. "Now, why don't you come with me? We have a building called the United Nations where we can work out the terms. You might enjoy a tour of one of Earth's greatest cities. Would you like that, little fella?" Belmont reached over with his other hand and gently rubbed the alien's scaly head between its tiny horns. "Aren't you just the cutest little devil I've ever seen?" This has been an original story by T.R. Harris. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Be sure to check out all of my 70+ full-length novels available on Amazon. Thanks for watching.